On Friday, the 28th of October, the Thousand Man Initiative was launched by His Excellency Dr. Irfan Ali. So, in this age, men are trying their best to try and overcome the problems that we are facing, especially problems that are centered around the home, called domestic problems. However, we have to be very careful here when it comes to the approach in solving these problems. Num- uh, Numerous nations, 208 countries in this world, have been trying to solve this problem for many thousands of years. So, man has come up with their own set of solutions when it comes to solve these problems. And in a single capsule, we can describe all those problems. It is called behavior modification, trying to impose on the mind some principles that are being brought about by man to solve these problems. So, in a country like Guyana, when a young boy is growing up, say from the age of 2 years, say about 2 years old, he will start exposed to solving problems using behavior modification. And as such, by the time he reached to a leadership level, all that he can think about is behavior modification. So let's go back to the initiative by Dr. Irfan Ali. So it was a very beautiful setting. Yes, indeed, a lot of resource would have been invested to launch the program. I was there, and I would have imagined a different scenario altogether, a situation where there could have been um, some kind of a discussion, right, or interaction to get ideas of how to do this. Because when we're trying to solve problems, you see, the behavior of man is the way it is because he has not been uh, empowered when it comes to his survival. This is God's way of dealing with problems. This is nature's way of dealing with problems, that by ensuring that you can take care of your survival, you are going to have the best approach, the best behavior, the best conduct uh, for your home and for society. You will also be pleased with yourself. So that is called survival modification. And from survival modification, we will naturally get behavioral modification. So let me just describe exactly what I'm talking about, and then I will go to the project exactly what Dr. Irfan Ali is doing. All right. So survival modification is nature's way of making sure that intelligent creatures like us can be peaceful and happy in this world, and so display good behavior. So this is God's laws. God is saying that uh, we have to ensure our survival, right? And that comes from gardening. Now, I don't like to use the word gardening right away, but to just introduce it. But the idea is that if a man can have a good supply of fruits, vegetables, herbs, or if he can have a garden with all of these things, right? And he engages his family to maintain that beautiful garden, then there will be family bond, there will be personal health, and there will be social stability. Because the man has done something that all men should do. Take care of your own things. Do not depend on others. Frustration and distress, or distress and suffering, is there because we depend on others. And most of the times, if not if not all the time, we are frustrated because we are very disappointed when others do not produce so that we can get. So we must be independent so that we can be peaceful and happy and not depend. So that's the only direction we can go to actually solve problems. We have to turn back to God. And God has given us this land so that we can use this land to be healthy, to have good family bonds, good communication within the home, and good social stability. In a nutshell, empowering survival, it changes the heart of a man. The heart becomes filled with joy, filled with happiness about about others. He now can realize that, I must uh, consider the situation of others as my own situation so that collectively we can move forward together. He does not think about his own situation. So, in this way, there is social stability. So, Dr. Irfan Ali, when he went there, I was hoping to make this point. I was hoping to give an example that, man has been conditioned, and because of the condition of man, he will only be talking about behavioral modification, targeting the mind, but not targeting the heart, right? When the heart is targeted, of course, we talk about this where God's messages is upheld, and nature is used. The heart is transformed, and naturally there'll be a change of the mind. But behavioral modification only targets the mind. It does not go down to respect what God wants, and to make use of the land, make use of the direction of nature, that is God's energy. So man has been conditioned to think about one thing for thousands of years, and all around him is just the same message. Target the brain, and there's no actual understanding or realization that you must satisfy the natural way of living. You must satisfy God's laws that every man should grow from his land, and in this way, develop a sense of peace and happiness through independence. So, as long as a man is dependent, he will never be happy. And we will continue with many initiatives or many agendas without any kind of success. Okay? So, we definitely have to be careful, and let's just appreciate what would have occurred. It was Friday, the 28th of October. I was there, and as I said, I want to make this point. I wanted to make a simple point that, what? If we cannot have survival modification, then no amount of behavioral modification will make a man change. Generally, and that's a general principle. All right. So we must take the laws of God and make use of the land, as I mentioned quite a few times just now. So yes, it was quite a scene when I went there. There was a lot of investment for the launch of the project, and I know that there will be many presenters. When I saw that, I still thought I could have present this point, but then I realized later were how things were cemented, or how the program was just fixed to launch without any discussion or any possibility of really and truly appreciating the very reason for change. Okay, so yes, so there were many presenters, and there were, first of all, if I can recall clearly, persons apart from religious leaders. They went and they gave presentations from the Guyana Defense Force. Persons went there and they talk about their background and so on, and how they were able to change their life by being determined and not giving up. Yes, so definitely in this world, as long you have a certain background, and you will have that training not to give up because of the background that you grew up in. Okay, so nothing happened out of the blues. Everything happened for a reason. So they were talking about their success in this life, and then the religious leaders came up, and they were really almost sound like politicians. These religious leaders, I was imagining to myself, the amount of things that you were talking about, you know, you know, you know. I imagine if God has to listen. There was one gentleman. He was say, "Let's get ready for a prayer." But the way he started, like, you do not know when the prayer began. And so, anyways, everybody was trying to, bow their heads. A lot of young men all around, they started to talk, and that is where you felt the sense of superficiality in whatever was presented. When young men break their focus, so survival modification or empowering survival is less talking to no talking. However, behavioral modification, because it has to do with the mind, it is a lot of talking, which turns off a lot of people. People will be interested and motivated when they can see survival modification, empowering people's survival, encouraging people to grow lots of fruits, vegetables, and herbs, and collecting fresh rainwater. This will ease the kind of stress for living, for survival. Yes, so the religious leaders came on and they were talking a lot, and afterwards everybody was waiting. Though I personally was waiting for the president himself to speak, to listen to what he have to say. There was a doctor that came on. He talked about men should be part of the room, the delivery room or the labor room, to see what their wives are going through. All of that is behavior modification. All right, all of that is behavior modification, meaning that dealing with the mind and not with empowering survival and fixing the heart. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, finally, Dr. Irfan Ali came on, and I have a document right here as I'm looking here. So the project is meant to lift the younger generation of men out of the doldrums of societal ills such as drug abuse, domestic violence, gang violence, and crime, to mention a few. This will be achieved by providing men with guidance and counseling. Oh, providing those people who are, going through the kind of ills, by providing them with guidance and counseling, recreational facilities, creating economic empowerment through temporary employment schemes, incorporating them into national development architecture, which is based on a low carbon trajectory. Okay, so I'm gonna read out. I think I should. Let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna read out the two paragraph. Please bear with me. This bold and far-reaching initiative, as it is meant to incorporate 1,000 prominent men in the Guyanese society who will mentor and guide young men from all religions, cultural, and ethnic persuasions all across the administrations of Guyana. That is, creating a network of 1,000 men who will foster positive changes within the younger generation of men in society. So the last paragraph talk about how it will be coordinated. It says here, regional hubs staffed by members of the regional authority, joint services, and private sector, religious and other bodies will be created to enable the overall management of the project. The Thousand Man Project will be supported through the Office of the Presidency of the President, with His Excellency and male members of his cabinet having a close oversight of the coordinating, planning, executing, evaluating of the outcomes of the initiative. So I have read there the whole approach to what they're trying to do, uh, how they approach to execute the Thousand Man project, and they want to help young people, younger generation of men out of social ills, and it's going to be for everybody, to empower and guide those men who needs help. And the final paragraph talked about how it will be coordinated through some staff, some groups, regional groups. So, well, that's the old narrative. Unfortunately, that's basically the narrative all across the world when they want to solve these kind of domestic problems, the kind of social problems that we are facing. It's the same narrative, nothing different. So, I'd like to call out to make a humble appeal. If somebody in authority can somehow forward this video to His Excellency, or to anybody who is in connection to the execution of this initiative, I'll be very grateful to give insight into the genuine way of solving the problem. We cannot solve problems using the old superficial ideas again and again. The same ideas that were um, what's that word, regurgitated again and again all over the world. Right? We cannot use back those same ideas. And if a program is to be presented differently, the only difference is going to that will be there is the fancy packaging that the old solution is getting. Fancy shiny package. So His Excellency, of course, we must respect his effort, despite a man not realizing the difference altogether in approach. We must respect his effort and interest in helping the Guyanese public. And as such, I would have really wished to facilitate the initiative becoming a success and not falling apart. I would have wanted to. I want to explain the dimension of survival empowerment, and that when there is survival empowerment, then naturally man will behave properly. That is nature's design. That is God design. That when his children are that when the children are living naturally off the land and not depending on others, he will naturally be peaceful and happy. But when you take away that independence, then he becomes disappointed and frustrated, and he lives a life that is basically haunted by fancy, polished material things. Okay, so I really pray sincerely that our country move forward. I pray sincerely that all of these, prayers that we are doing, that they may not be of flattery, where we have hidden agendas for personal enjoyment, but we want the agenda of nature, of God, those agendas of God or nature, to be the ones uh, to manifest. When the day comes, we see so much of fancy things, fancy lifestyle, fancy food. This fried chicken all over the signboards, and alcohol and rum and fancy cars. So obviously, when we go to God, is we are saying, "Oh my God, please make me happy, please make me peaceful." But what is the happiness that you want? It's all those things that you saw and you were attached to. So when you go to God, you end up behaving or acting in flattery in your prayers. And basically, that's what was on the stage. All those probably 1 hour of prayers on that stage is basically flattery if you do not know exactly what God's want us to ask for. Right? We should be asking God for the natural way of living this life, the natural empowered way of living this life, and to understand the power of good gardening. Good gardening, the most simplest thing and the most fundamental thing to stabilize the individual, the family, and society. Nutrition and health is where? It's right in your garden. Yes or no? Uh, Family bond, meaningful family bond. Where is it? Where do we find it? Right in the garden. Do meaningful things, grow the vegetables, fruits, and so on. You cook it together and you eat together. That's family bond. The fast food, as you were, or the flattery, is basically that the family buys food and end up do meaningless activities, talk nonsense and watch television, and the family bond is lost. So we really have to understand how God's arrangement for mankind to be happy manifests, and how we must pray, what we should pray for. So I think that's all about what I want to say at this point in time. I would have introduced, or I would have begun speaking about the situation of conditioning all over the world to solve problem, which results in an approach by man that is devoid of godliness or nature or respect to nature. Then I talk about, um, I was going to talk about the initiative, but first, then I talk about the example of how man will naturally behave himself and conduct himself properly by the natural means, by empowering survival, living off nature, living off God's blessings. And then I talk about the initiative. I talk about the initiative I read out there. And finally, I would have discussed some more about God's plan, God's nature design for man to be happy. Okay, so I've talked quite a lot there. It's 20 minutes going on to 25 minutes there, and I hope all you beautiful people can appreciate what I'm saying. And I really looking forward that this initiative doesn't fall apart because it's precious taxpayers' dollar uh, going down the drain if that should happen. So just like there are many programs, there would have been in education. If you list the programs and the amount of money that been invested, it breaks your heart. Taxpayers' money. Okay, so and there's so many other approaches all across the world, not only in Guyana, where millions of dollars, hundreds and tens of millions of dollars, are going down the pipeline, all because of the fancy packaging that we're doing to the old problems. Sometimes we feel that we talk hard and strong. Men need to take up the roles. Men need to treat women nicely. Men need to take back their position as the head of the family. We think we're doing justice, right? But it's just a shinier, fancier, way of packaging the old temporary solutions. So we have to really, as I said, respect God and respect how He manifests nature, through how He manifests that through nature man can be happy. So that's about it. Um, yes, we want to have a better society, and our children are getting older. They're seeing what the adults are doing, and they too will stand on that stage. And another version of our initiative will be coming out. So there's a saying: "What goes around comes around." It goes around because it was not different. It was not fundamentally or divinely or naturally different, right?